Ernest Kellogg Gann is quoted as saying, "It's remarkable how quickly a good and favorable wind can sweep away the maddening frustrations of shore living." In a time when living on land seemed to become more and more depressing, this quote opened my eyes to the call of the ocean that grew stronger and stronger. Danielle had just accepted a new job and was to be landlocked for a while, so after lots of discussion and planning, Micah, my 8-year-old daughter, and I decided to set off on an adventure to escape all of the craziness. Our plan? To explore further than we had ever in the past several years, and to boldly go where no boat had ever gone before, where perfectly timed entrances and exits into dangerously shallow lagoons could end a trip with a single mistake. To get this party started, I single-handedly set sail 160 nautical miles north, from Nanaimo, BC to Port McNeil, BC. I think I've got enough fuel. Got crab traps. Got the kayak for the kid. So I've got 2 whole spare tanks of diesel. And then I've got about 20 gallons of gasoline and then some, because I've got some in the dinghy and all that too. Got solar panels, got those guys put on. And then got prawn traps back here, and I've got spearfishing gear and all that stuff. It's gonna be a fun time. All right, in a hurried manner, I left Nanaimo, British Columbia this morning. Got some fuel, did all the things I needed to do. I didn't finish doing all the cleaning I need to do, but I got out on the way. I've got about 5 days to make it to Port McNeil, which is about 150 miles from where I am. So kilometers, do the math, I don't know. I'm gonna try to sail as much as possible. 5 days should be an easy time to make. I've got to make it there. So I had someone drive my car up there, so I have my car. And then I'll bring my car back because I have a tattoo appointment in Vancouver with a guy named Phil Kwan. And if you don't know who Phil Kwan is, you should look him up. He's pretty badass. And then I pick up the kid back in Nanaimo in the car, who is in a sailing class with the kid of another family we actually met in Port McNeil, which is the person that drove my car back up. And then we drive back up, get all the groceries and do the things we need to do to prepare to be gone for a long time, and then we head out. 1, 2, 3, go. So the plan is today to sail. The wind sucks, so I'm probably moving at about 2 knots, headed north. And of course, north is in the eye of the beholder, because right now I'm not exactly headed on the route I need to, because I'm sailing at the mercy of the wind. So I'm going to sail the rest of today through tonight, all the way as close to a place called Campbell River as I can, and then try to time Seymour Narrows, which you can find it on a map. But Seymour Narrows is a pretty gnarly narrow current that it hits, I think, upwards of like 13 knots or 14 knots. It's pretty crazy. But it's kind of where the 2 currents meet around this island, so it gets pretty gnarly in there. So I'm going to do that, try to time that current to where it's in my favor, zip through there, and then probably just slow down and anchor up, and only travel partial days instead of, 48 hours. So. isn't something I get to do very often. Okay, so I know you can't see me, but if you know what phosphorescence is, I saw these phosphorescent streaks in the water, and then I saw a big giant phosphorescent streak, and then a whale came up and surfaced beside me and blew out, and it's right out here. And I'm going to leave this recording in case it comes back up. There it was. Whoa. Holy crap. Wow. Beautiful morning. But the weather has definitely turned a bit. God, I came downstairs and noticed the battery wasn't charging, and I've been running the engine for like 4 hours. Scared me because I was running a lot of charges last night for batteries and things, for cameras and stuff like that. After doing all the testing, it turns out my battery combiner is trying to flake out, so I was able to fix it for now. So hopefully it stays working. Yay! One of the best parts about coming up north is when you cross through the area where Seymour Narrows is, right through there. It's so gnarly to get through there. A lot of people don't come up here. So once you cross over, there's no boats. The only boat I've seen so far is a commercial fishing boat. And so it's not that other people don't come up here, some do, but your chances of seeing people are a lot more slim. So yeah, it's really awesome. So I've been up for like 2 days, So I'm gonna go find a place to anchor and try to get some sleep. Man, I fell asleep early last night. I guess that's what happens when you stay up for 2 days, huh? In a really cool place. It's a place called Veer Cove. I always try to stop here. Usually because nobody else wants to anchor here, because if the wind's coming out of the west, it can get pretty rough in here, but it doesn't bother me because the holding is really good. And I know that that the boat's not really going to go anywhere. So it's got a good bank that comes up, and you just have to be very careful because the tide goes way out on the shore. It probably drops about 20 feet in here. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's noticeably colder now that I'm up in around the Broughtons. The weather patterns are definitely different. You can always tell when you're up here. But I'll show you around out here. So I've anchored here enough to know that when the tide goes out, which it's doing right now, a lot of that becomes land. And so it'll probably come out, I would say, to those rocks over there. So part of the trick to anchoring in here is it's a super deep cove. It's like 300, 400 feet deep. So, but it starts to come up pretty quick. This little shoal does right here. And so you hook into that shoal, but you can't let out more than about a 3x scope, which basically means for every foot deep that you anchor, you let out 3 feet of rode or chain. And so at a 3x scope, I anchored in 60 feet, but I called it about 50 feet because it's only at 60 feet where I anchored at really high tide. And I've been here enough to know that as well. So I let out 150 feet total. And what'll happen is, before I know it, as the wind pushes me back and it pulls to the very edge of where I've anchored, I will probably be, 30 or 40 feet off the back of this land, and it'll be, roughly 15 or so feet deep under me. So we'll see how accurate I am, but you can look over there and you can actually see the bottom, right? It's starting to come up a bit. Saturday sun, it just came out. Let me pull my anchor and move on down to the next island. Oh, Saturday sun. So one of the few downsides to being up here is the horseflies have never had real competition with actual horses. So they've grown to be the size of those big mosquitoes in the movie Jumanji. And every now and then you'll hear a hummingbird behind you and you're like, oh no, that's a horsefly. And they're so big that if you hit them with like a fly swatter, I mean, they'll probably eat Popeye spinach, laugh at you, and then kill you. So that is one downside. You have to be very careful up here. So I'd stayed in this spot longer than I normally would because there's a grizzly bear here. There was, and the past couple of years I've known it to be here. So usually comes out at around 11, around low tide, and 2 days in a row that hasn't happened. So I'm gonna assume that that bear's moved on. So I'm gonna go to this next spot over here in the center of kind of the strait here, Johnston Strait. Kind of see what happens. So yeah.
Coast Guard Fisheries Response Vessel Victoria, Coast Guard Radio.
Yeah, we probably about 15 minutes from there. We're in the suit here.
Roger, understand. Fiddle channel, stand by.
I ended up passing the anchorage I was headed to make some more headway, as well as take some time to prepare for the next couple of months. Eventually, I settled on Port Harvey. I didn't video much as I was enjoying the peace and quiet, but I decided during this time to take notes and create videos to share with my 21-year-old entrepreneur self. Here's the first one.
Good morning, Internet. Good morning, all you beautiful business leaders and entrepreneurs. So every year I take a trip. I have a sailboat and I take a trip out for a month or 2 months. And I like to reflect on my life, the past, the future, things I've done wrong, things I've done right. Kind of think of what I want to do when I grow up. And, one of the things I tend to reflect on a lot is, failure. I mean, a lot of people, if you don't experience failure, you're probably not trying hard enough. So one of the main things that I've learned over time is to not go at it alone. And I had someone tell me one time, a percentage of something is something, but 100% of nothing is nothing. And it took me a while to understand that because, I didn't come from much. Entrepreneur was I didn't realize exactly what that was. I just kind of fell into it over time. So, as I reflect on it, one of the things that took me the longest to learn was to not go at it alone. Some of my biggest failures have been trying to do things all myself. And learning what your strengths are and learning to focus on those strengths and find, kind of the yin to your yang, or, to go find the one or two people that are strong where you're weak. And so, a prime example for me, the things that I found that I'm good at are starting things. My personality just screams start things, don't finish them. And when I say personality, I mean Myers-Briggs. So I'm an ENTP if you want to go look that up. And it's kind of the entrepreneur gene, right? So, but one of the things is you have a messy desk. Things are a mess because the way you compartmentalize is a bit different. And learning these things about yourself is a huge benefit to your career in general. And so, one of the ways I describe it is, I'm really good. I'm on a boat, right? So I'm really good at proving a boat can float. But I don't want to deal with the details and nuances of, exactly how to make it more aerodynamic. I just want to prove it can float and then find smart people that are way smarter than me to do those things. And so it took me a really long time to do that. Instead of trying to learn everything myself, I used to try to learn Photoshop and all these things, and I just wasn't that good at them. Yeah, so that's the message I really wanted to talk about today. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's taking care of themselves, and I'll see you next time.
I continued to ponder the trip, plan the trip, and come up with notes for other messages to my 21-year-old entrepreneur self. After a few hours, I landed in Port McNeil, BC, ended up at the North Shore Marina, and met up with my friend Will. A pro tip, if you're ever in Port McNeil, go to the North Shore Marina and find Will if you ever have any needs. Once everything was squared away, I jumped in the car and headed south, caught the ferry, and made my tattoo appointment the next morning.